Richie Quake is a singer, songwriter, producer, and DJ from New York City. As a DJ, he's played many of New York City's premier nightclubs, and as a musician, he's quickly making a name for himself by blending indie, R&B, and hip-hop vibes. Let's go talk to him now. I've always been curious about the creative process. I mean, what's that cosmic itch that absolutely must be scratched? And maybe even more than that, once they've started on that creative journey, what's the thing that helps someone take a project from the beginning to the finish? In this series, I'll be talking to industry professionals about their process, and I'll be asking them questions like, what's the best place to start? The best kind of equipment to use? What exactly does that button do? My name is Watson, and this is Making Noise.
What's up?
Hey,
dude?
what's up? It's good to see you again, man.
Great to see you.
Yeah.
Dude.
So,
Excellent to see you.
yeah, it's excellent, right? I agree. It's amazing. Well, let's start at the beginning, though. Tell me, Richie, where are you from?
Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay. What part?
Carroll Gardens.
Carroll Gardens.
Yep.
And your family's still there?
Everyone's still there. Even the dog.
Even the dog. What's the dog's name?
Bruno.
Wait a minute. Is that from the movie?
You know, I get that a lot. It's not. We got him before that.
Cool. What kind of dog?
He's a little fluffy white guy.
Little fluffy boy.
Kind of like my dad.
Is his name Bruno too?
It's Marty.
Marty. Right
Yeah.
on. That's hilarious. Okay, right on. So how did you, like, what are some of your earliest music memories? Was your family musical? Your parents musicians?
I would say that, you know, my parents are not musicians themselves, but they like music. They played music in the house. They're from that like hippie generation, the 70s, and they listened to a lot of classic rock, and that was kind of my intro to really like loving music is listening to the radio with my dad and his old CDs and stuff like that, and just getting into that. A lot of that stuff really has still stuck with me, and I love it still, like the Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, Pink Floyd, Rolling Stones, all that. And yeah, then I you know, as I started to kind of come into my own, I was listening to the music that was popular with my friends, and
yeah.
we would all listen to like G-Unit and Eminem and all that stuff. And then there was like there was like the Good Charlotte and the Linkin Park and all that stuff was going on at the time too, so we were listening to that stuff. And yeah, I just had a really good mix of my parents giving me kind of a good background in like the classic rock stuff, and then listening to stuff from my friends at school. And
Yeah.
I just always felt a really deep connection to music of all kinds, and it always just seemed like something that I really gravitated towards and something that I wanted to do.
So what was the first time you picked up an instrument? What was the first instrument you played?
The first thing I did was piano, because my neighbor played piano, and I got a few lessons from him. And then I decided, you know, that I wanted to do it a little bit more seriously. I mean, I was 6, so how serious could it have been?
Yeah.
But my mom, you know, sent me over to this like piano teacher, and I think my mom told me that she asked how it was going after a couple of weeks to the piano teacher, and she was like, you know, my mom was like, oh, does he know how to play, you know, Mary Had a Little Lamb and ABCs, blah, 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 whatever. She was like, no, he likes to write his own songs.
Oh, word.
And my mom was like, what do you mean? Like, you haven't taught him anything? She's like, he refuses to learn. Like, he just wants to sit here and write his own songs. So my mom took me out of the piano lessons, and I guess that's when she realized that I had an affinity for writing songs. But, and for making music. And from there, I just kept the interest going, and my parents encouraged me, and, you know, I realized it was music, and I asked my parents for guitar lessons, so
Nice.
that's kind of where I ended up playing guitar.
That's dope. So, and at first when you were playing guitar, it was, I assume, acoustic. You were playing, like, figuring out basic chord structure and just basic singer-songwriter?
In the beginning, like I said, I was really into like the classic rock stuff, and I took all my cues from like my favorite guitarists like Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page and David Gilmour, and all I wanted to do was just like shred. I just wanted to be like the shreddy guy, mysterious guitar player, and I was just shredding on this nylon string, and by shredding I mean like.
Right.
Not really shredding.
But I'm sure you felt like I'm killing it right now.
I felt like I was crushing it. And I was getting guitar lessons, and my parents bought me, my neighbor had like this used guitar, so we bought this used guitar, and I was like really into like the 60s and 70s, like lead guitar kind of thing. And when I realized that I was just sitting in my room soloing over nobody, I decided it might have been time to start writing some songs so that I could actually hear some full songs. And something about it kind of clicked with me, because when I decided to sit down one day and write something, everyone was giving me positive feedback. So it just gave me this like immediate encouragement to just keep going. And I formed this acoustic duo with this girl that I knew from high school, who was a really gifted singer. And at that time I had no vocal training, and I was not a very gifted singer. But I knew I had a passion for writing, and I knew I had a passion for playing, and I would write the songs, and we would harmonize vocal, like Simon and Garfunkel style thing, and it went well. People liked us. We did opening gigs around the city, and it was fun. I had a lot of fun doing that.
That's great.
Yeah.
When you started doing those first performances, were you nervous at all, or did you feel at home on stage?
I think I kind of thought of it differently at that time in my life. I was more doing it for like a cathartic experience, as opposed to like really wanting to be famous or anything, and thinking about playing music professionally. I just knew that I liked playing music, so I was not that nervous, because I was just doing stuff that I thought was fun.
Gotcha. So after high school, this was all just like later in high school, you were doing
pretty much is when I started to write the acoustic stuff and had that group. Was later in high school.
So did you go to music school after this? Did you go to?
Yeah. From writing the acoustic songs, I kind of wanted to hear my songs in a more realized way, and I wanted to, I had the vision for them in my head, and for whatever reason I didn't connect with that many other musicians. There was a big scene in Brooklyn that I went to, that I was part of, but it was just not, it was more of like a punk rock scene.
Yeah.
And that was just not the music that I wanted to write. So I thought that my best shot in hearing my songs the way I wanted to hear them was to learn how to produce and to like make them myself. So I started out in GarageBand and messed around a little bit. I met another producer who I became friends with, who lived in the same neighborhood as me. And from there, he said that he was going to SUNY Purchase to learn how to, produce and write and be a musician. And I was like, Mom, I want to go to SUNY Purchase.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about songwriting and the way that you approach songwriting even now. So how do you like to start? Are you someone who just likes to jam out on the guitar or piano and then something happens? Do you start with lyrics? Do you start with a drum pattern? How do you like to get going?
I think my strength is definitely chords and melody, like the real foundational like songwriting stuff. And I usually start there.
Okay.
I'll mess around with chords. A lot of it is borrowing and, analyzing songs that I like and taking things that I like and kind of like collaging chord changes or different progressions or different kind of like harmonic progressions together, and just figuring out how to put all those things that I like together, getting it to a place that I feel comfortable with in terms of like chord and melody. And once I'm feeling good on that, I'll just kind of start to build the song around it.
Nice. So once you feel good about where you're at with the song, you've got, you know, the melody. Maybe you even wrote the whole thing out and have it arranged. How do you know when it's done? Do you like to hand it to other people to see what they think, or?
I think that's the hardest part,
Yeah.
realizing when it's done. Because I'm definitely a demo guy. Like I like to just make things and like have them, you know, be what they are. But like when you're ready to put it into the world, I think that's like the hardest part. Is like, how do you sever the umbilical cord and let that thing, you know, live its own life? And it's a hard thing for me. I usually like to pass it off to another producer, just to put that 5% polish on it, you know? Like if I can take it 95% with my demo and I can make it to where I'm like, this is a good song, like it feels good and I'd be happy to share this with people, but I know that it probably still sounds a bit like a demo. And I'll send it to friends and, you know, people that I work with who I trust, who give me feedback and stuff. And then, yeah, I'll usually pass it off to somebody who can just take it that extra, you know, that last mile. Like I'll run the whole marathon with it and then I pass the baton for the last portion, just because for me it's hard to really decide when it's done. When it's done. You know?
So we were actually talking off camera a bit about this. So you, for example, this calendar year, you've already released 4 singles this year. And you're planning on releasing maybe 1 or 2 more before the year's over?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna release 1 or 2 more.
Now let me ask you, why are you taking that approach as opposed to just doing a EP or an album straight away?
I think albums are a luxury. Like I think albums are like a luxury item for an artist these days. You know, it's super costly to make an album, you know, because you got to think about like mixing and mastering is expensive. And to do that for 10 songs all at once is expensive. Music videos are expensive, you know, photo shoots to put, you know, an album out is expensive. So it's like, 1, it's very expensive. And 2, it feels a little bit unfair to work so hard on something. And when you put an album out, you know there's gonna be a single, maybe 2 singles, maybe 3. But if you're not famous with like a big, broad listener fan base, the other 7 songs are gonna go nowhere. You know, maybe a couple thousand people will hear them. Maybe you'll win the lottery and the album will blow you up into stardom, but probably not, you know? So I just think it's more effective for me to, you know, it's more cost effective because I you know, I can pay for a mix and a master, and I can pay for whatever, if I want to run an Instagram ad or something like that and get a photo shoot or make some merch or something like that. Doing it one by one, it's a lot more cost efficient for me as an artist, and I can really put more resources into one song.
That's what's up. So let's talk a little bit about what's next for you. This is obviously in the middle of a interesting time for everyone, with, you know, the pandemic. But I guess in the next few months or even next year, what are some of the things that you're hoping to do?
I just think the most important thing for me right now is to just not stop, because it's hard. Like you said, we're in a weird time, and there's no shows, and there's no networking and going out and hanging out with people, and there's none of that right now. So I think the most important thing is for me to be in the studio, writing, developing my sound, working with other artists, you know, continuing to make some videos, and I think I'm gonna drop some merch soon.
Nice.
Collaborating with my friend who's a graphic designer, and just staying on the path of just making work and putting it out.
Dope.
Keep showing people who Richie Quake is,
There
you
we
know?
go. That's what's up.
Yeah.
So as we wind down here, what would you say, What's a lesson that maybe you've learned as you've kind of gotten to this point that you wouldn't mind sharing to someone else who's trying to become an artist or singer-songwriter?
I think it's really like what I was just talking about. I think that's the most important thing that I've really learned, is that you just can't stop. You just have to you have to, like, when I started DJing, I did it in a very strategic way. And I was like, I want to do this. I want it to be my living.
Yeah.
And I want to be good at it. And I want to be, I want to have success in it. So I made it a point, I was like, I downloaded music every day, and I would ask questions to other DJs, and I would really just be diligent about having it as a practice. And whether I liked it or not, whether I wanted to or not, if I was in the mood to DJ or not, if I had a gig, I was there, and I was DJing for 3-4 hours. And that turned me from a shitty DJ into a really good DJ in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And I realized I never did that with my music. I never just did it whether I wanted to. I never, music was something that I would make when it felt right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something where I was like putting the pressure on myself to be like, this is what my career is gonna be, and this is what I'm gonna do, and I have to sit down and think about it.
Yeah.
Because once you put that pressure on yourself, I think that you rise to the occasion more. I think it's easier to rise to the occasion if you put pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
If you just don't give yourself the option of not necessarily failing, because that's part of growing and learning, but the option of stopping.
Gotcha. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. I appreciate you spending time with us today, man.
Dude.
Thank you very much.
It was my pleasure.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, we'll see you soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
And that's today's show. If you'd like to learn more about Richie Quake's music, please check out the links in the description box below. Also, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. My name is Watson. This is Making Noise. Peace.